It's the 6th day on the Traitors, and last time, the castle was rocked after Gabby was blindsided, all thanks to traitor Gianna, whose intention was to remove a huge threat to the Traitors team. However, this upset Theo, causing a bigger rift between him and the women. Thankfully, they agreed on a decision last night as there was a twist rather than a murder. They had to pick 5 people to put on death row, meaning they will be the only ones nominated for murder the following night. They put 2 of their own, those being Theo and Gianna. They also agreed on Clara and Fee, but their final choice was between Minnie Marie, Colleen, and Winston. We'll find out who they picked at breakfast. Inside the room, the smell of flowers spreads throughout the empty room, and Winston walks in first, happy to finally be the first one inside. He sits down, ready to dig into some food. In confessional, Winston admits he's still very surprised by last night's events. This whole castle is in need of any sort of help because everyone is going crazy. Literally everyone. People are refusing to vote out the obvious suspicious people, so he's going to continue pushing those names so people finally give in and vote them. Back in the room, Morel enters the room next, though it's pretty awkward between the two. In confessional, Morel knows 100% that Winston will be gunning for her again. He's essentially continuously pitching her name, Janine's, and Mari's to everyone. He will probably do it again, but all she can do is tell people why it's not her so they reconsider their decision. The next to enter the room is Liam, and shortly after, it's Russell. Russell sits down and lets out a very deep sigh, feeling exhausted after last night. Winston says that everyone will hopefully recover today because they need to continue playing. They can't give up now. There are 2, or maybe 3, or even 4 traitors lurking who are having the time of their lives. In confessional, Russell says that he's scared for what's to come. It's still the aftermath of the Gabby blindside, and there are some pretty pissed people. He's expecting some fireworks today. Back in the room, Janine walks in next, followed by Clara and then Minnie Marie. In confessional, Minnie Marie is hopeful that the faithful will finally get to banish a traitor. It has to happen eventually. They really need to get one right soon, or else people will start giving up hope. Brandon is next to enter the room, followed by Fee and then Theo, who doesn't look too happy. He sits down, not saying good morning to anyone. Morel then points out to Theo that he's making himself look more suspicious by changing his attitude so drastically. Theo looks at Morel in confusion, asking her if he asked for her opinion on anything. He waves his hand to get rid of her and looks back at the table. Holly is next to enter the room and she happily sits down. She then turns to Theo, asking him if they're still cool, and Theo says he doesn't mind her as much as some other people right now. Holly apologizes to him and tells him that last night has nothing to do with their relationship in this game. In confessional, Theo states that although he wants to keep up his pissed act, he also needs to maintain a good relationship with certain people, even those who voted Gabby out. He specifically wants to remain good with Holly and Russell as they come as a package deal. They both trust him, so he has no reason to distrust them. Back in the room, Colleen is next to enter, and then Krista follows afterwards. Gianna is the next to enter the room, saying good morning in a soft tone. Holly asks her how she slept, and Gianna says she got maybe 2 hours of sleep last night. She asks where Franco is, and Russell says they are still waiting between Franco and Mari to join them. Janine says they certainly murdered Franco then because Mari literally has a public shield. They all then hear footsteps by the door, and they all watch as it opens, revealing Mari. She is stunned to see so many people in here, and they all tell her that she's the last one. Franco got murdered in that case. Holly looks around the room, and in her confessional, she says she's somewhat relieved Franco is gone because he was very pissed at her for voting out Gabby. The traitors just did her a huge favor. Back in the room, Liam is super upset that Franco is now gone too. Morel comforts him, but he doesn't take this well. To everyone's surprise though, Franco walks in the door right after, and they are all very confused and shocked. Gianna asks what just happened, and Franco is also confused. Mari says they all thought he got murdered, but it's clear nobody got murdered. Franco promises he didn't have any secret shield of any sort. In confessional, Clara mentions how shocking it was to see Franco walk into the room. This is the first time everyone survived a murder, so now everyone's curious what's going on. Back in the room, everyone is seated, and they are all then told that today obviously is starting off a bit different. Everyone is present at breakfast, and that's because the traitors did not choose to murder last night. They instead chose to put 5 people on death row, meaning those 5 would be their only options for murder the following night, which is tonight. Everyone is in utter shock, and in confessional, Janine says that this twist is actually great for the faithful. It might guide them into the right direction finally, since they will get to see who the traitors actually choose for death row. Back in the room, the 5 people on death row are starting to be revealed one by one. The first one revealed is Clara, and she frowns immediately. In confessional, she says she's not a happy camper today because the traitors chose her to be on death row. She's probably their target, unless she's up against some legit faithful. The next person revealed on death row is Gianna, and she rolls her eyes in response. Krista comforts her, and then the next name revealed is Fee. Fee says it's all good. He's fine being in the hot seat. Theo is then revealed next, and he doesn't react at all. Holly says sorry to Theo, feeling really bad for him right now. The final name is then revealed to be Minnie Marie, and she silently nods with a frown. Gianna breathes out and looks up into the ceiling. In confessional, Gianna says that ultimately, Krista gave in and told her and Brandon to just pick Minnie Marie because they are better off repaying Theo after voting Gabby out. So Minnie Marie ended up being their 5th choice, and it's not sitting well with her right now. Back in the room, it's confirmed that Clara, Gianna, Fee, Theo, and Minnie Marie are on death row, meaning one of them will be murdered tonight. Krista publicly says she feels for the people on death row right now, and she hopes they can still move past this today. Fee says he's totally fine, and so does Clara. Gianna says she doesn't care at this point because she's out of energy after yesterday. Franco says that they really shouldn't act like such victims because they ended Gabby's dream. She's the real victim in all of this. Mari has had enough though with Franco, telling him to please stop guilt-tripping people for playing a damn game. Franco doesn't take this well and tells Mari to shut up. He's sick of her random input. She can stay silent, yet she decides to yap at any moment she can. Mari tells him to control himself. He's a 70-year-old man who isn't setting a good example right now for other old people, and he corrects her, saying he's 61. In confessional, Mari says that she's really bad at hiding her own true feelings. Franco genuinely annoys her because he's taking things way too personally. He literally met Gabby 5 days ago. He's acting like he lost a loved one of 61 years. Back in the room, Russell says that it's likely the traitors chose the most faithful-seeming people, because all 5 have been pretty faithful acting lately. Morel suspects at least one person is a traitor within the group because it seems like the best disguise for any expert traitor. In confessional, Morel thinks Theo might actually be a traitor. Him voting Neymar out on day 2 had nothing to do with proving his innocence. Yet, people trust him because of that move. It's hard to even accuse him though because people won't believe anything she says right now as she's a huge target for the following banishment. With there now being 5 players on death row, it's becoming the new hot topic around the castle. Morel, Minnie Marie, Clara, Janine, and Liam all chat together as Morel explains that it's clear the traitors picked the players who seem most innocent, but there has to be at least one traitor in the mix, and that's why she's starting to think Theo might actually be playing everyone. Minnie Marie shrugs and says that she didn't even know she herself was seemingly innocent. Clara also didn't know people saw her as mostly innocent, but at least that's good to know now. In confessional, Clara is quite surprised the traitors chose her to go on death row. Perhaps they are threatened by her because she's the only pick that is genuinely shocking to people. Minnie Marie isn't that surprising. Gianna also isn't that surprising since she's a very genuine human being. Theo has a sympathetic side to him, and Fee is one of the nicest people in here. As for herself, she'd like to think that the traitors feel threatened by her, so maybe her thinking in this game has been pretty accurate so far, making her into this target for the traitors. Back with the group, Janine says that she just really wants to get rid of a traitor once and for all. Everyone needs to stop saying that they know for sure who the traitors are because it's never going to work. Morel says that she isn't sure Theo is one. She's just thinking it could be based on evidence. Janine rolls her eyes and says that her theory sucks in her opinion. In confessional, Morel decides she isn't going to engage with Janine because if she does, she could get herself in trouble as she's already a major target for the next banishment. She doesn't know what names to push if people are too afraid to make any bold moves. In another chat with Mari, Brandon, Russell, and Colleen, Mari can't hold in her frustrations with Franco. He's way too emotional and is going to put the faithful at a disadvantage. Russell asks if voting out Franco is even the right move, considering he seems pretty faithful right now, and Mari says it's probably not a good idea. In confessional, Russell says that he doesn't want to vote based on emotions like a lot of people here want to. He wants to vote based on information, and at this very moment, his top two suspects are definitely Mari and Morel. He's leaning more towards Morel because she has been acting differently every day. Sometimes, she's very quiet. Other times, she speaks up. It's very inconsistent, which could be a sign that she's struggling to know when to speak and when not to. Brandon asks the group if they think Morel would be the right move at tonight's banishment, and Colleen says that it's definitely the easiest move. They also have to think about the 5 players put up for death row. They don't know if a traitor is in that group or not. Mari says that the majority of people think a traitor is in that group, and she's personally leaning more towards Theo or Gianna. Brandon says he's actually thinking Gianna could be one. She was a huge push for the Gabby vote, as if she was threatened by her. In confessional, Brandon says that people are becoming very suspicious of his own teammates, so at this point, he just needs to throw Gianna under the bus as much as possible to save his ride or die, Theo. He would love to save both, but at the end of the day, the options are becoming less and less, so he has to make difficult decisions. Colleen says she's leaning more towards Theo, and that's only because he's much harder to read. Sure, he's a very nice guy, but his anger this morning made her feel a bit iffy with him. Russell says that it's just his true emotions. That doesn't make him a traitor. If anything, Gianna's emotions seemed less real than his. He's not saying Gianna is 100% a traitor. Maybe none of the 5 on death row are one. Maybe the traitors really are one of the safe people. Mari says that they must have 3 to 4 traitors in the mix, so if they don't think it's anyone from death row, they need to come up with names soon because there aren't that many suspicions right now. In another room, Morel talks with Krista and Winston, telling them straight up that she fully believes they are both faithful, hence why she wants their help. They can work together as a great team right here, right now. She knows Winston has been thinking it's her, but she promises it's not. She doesn't think it's him in fact. Winston doesn't say much, just saying he's not committing to any plan right now, so he's all ears. Morel says that she truly thinks Theo is a traitor, but they don't have enough numbers to get him out. Everyone loves him and would rather take herself out or Mari. In confessional, Krista says that Morel is actually a very smart player, and hearing that she's going after Theo is really intriguing. Theo has never been a fan of hers, so if he gets more and more heat, that's great for her. Maybe Morel is her best chance at winning this game. In the room, Winston says that he's not fully convinced it's Theo. Mari would be a much safer option. Maybe even Janine. Morel feels more suspicion on Janine than Mari. Mari is just a victim of a bad public perception. In confessional, Morel feels like she's back to square one. Nobody wants to put their neck out to get Theo out because he has so much power in this game. At this rate, she will have to retaliate and just go for a simple Janine or Mari vote. Minnie Marie, Franco, Clara, Brandon, Holly, and Fee all chat together, and Franco asks if anyone is planning another blindside like last night. Holly tells Franco that the move against Gabby was nothing personal. People were genuinely wanting to find a traitor, so they looked at a direction that was more unexpected. Franco says that obviously didn't work, so they need to rethink their strategy again. Brandon mentions that Gianna's name has been named as a suspect after last night, but there's more push for someone like Morel. Fee says that he strongly believes it's between Morel, Mari, or Janine. Those three have had the biggest targets on their back since day one from the faithful, so there's no reason all three should be alive now. Holly agrees and says that they voted out a lot of people who were only accused for 1 or 2 days. They actually never voted out a heavily suspected person since day one. In confessional, Clara says that it's becoming clear that the group needs to vote out one of Janine, Mari, or Morel tonight because they had a lot of heat since day one. It makes sense because other theories did not work. Maybe they are playing too hard as a faithful group and need to go through with an easy vote for once. Minnie Marie says that she's leaning towards Morel right now, but Mari is also a possible traitor. Fee thinks Janine is more likely than the other two, but he's down to test Mari or Morel first. Brandon thinks it'll be good to hear all three of them out at tonight's banishment so they know who for sure to vote for. It's now that time for the players to come together for the faithful crown ceremony. Everyone sits together and hear that today's shield vote will only be between the 5 people on death row as expected. Luckily for the 5, they will still get a vote at tonight's banishment, meaning all 16 players will be allowed to vote. Everyone is glad, so Brandon asks if anyone wants to make a speech before the vote. Gianna says that she's fine if people don't vote her today since she made a huge blunder yesterday. There's complete silence for about 10 seconds, and then Theo says that he would appreciate getting the shield because he feels like he's at an all-time low after last night. Gabby was a really good friend, and the traitors clearly want to clean him off as well. Clara then makes her pitch, stating that she feels like the traitors might actually try murdering her tonight because she is seen as one of the less emotional players. She's not saying emotions are bad, but the traitors are probably aiming at someone who causes less chaos, like herself. Hence, the shield would be really nice. Minnie Marie and Fee stay quiet, not having a speech, so the players not on death row vote for one of the 5. In confessional, Krista says that she has no choice but to pick Theo for the shield since he's the only traitor right now who could get the votes. The team needs to confirm where the shield is so they can accurately murder the right person. In another confessional, Morel says that the only other person other than Theo who wants the shield is Clara, so in order to keep that shield away from Theo, she has to vote Clara. In another confessional from Mari, she decides to vote Clara as the easy pick here, and then in another confessional from Colleen, she chooses Fee for the shield since he's the most faithful from those 5 on death row. After all 11 votes are cast, the results are of course not revealed to the players, but what we know is that the vote tied. There were 5 votes Clara, 5 votes Theo, and 1 vote Fee. For the record, Morel, Mari, Winston, Russell, and Janine all voted Clara, while Krista, Brandon, Franco, Liam, and Holly all voted Theo. Colleen was the only vote for Fee, causing this tie in the first place. Therefore, nobody has a shield for tonight, but none of the players know this. With it now being the evening, the players have time to roam around the castle before the next banishment. Outside, Brandon, Gianna, and Krista enjoy some fresh air together, and it's a very convenient time to chat as a traitorous group. Krista says they need to keep an eye out in case someone joins them so they don't leak their role. Brandon and Gianna nod, and in confessional, Krista feels like this conversation without Theo in it is very important because she doesn't know if perhaps tonight is the right time to cut Theo from the team. He's dividing the group because he doesn't have an open mind. Krista then tells Brandon and Gianna that she isn't sure how to feel about Theo anymore because he's getting more suspicion on him, and if he is ever desperate to survive, he will throw one of his own traitors under the bus. Gianna immediately agrees with Krista and is glad this is being brought up. She really doesn't feel comfortable keeping him anymore. Brandon breathes out and says he's not fully convinced yet that he needs to go now. They need to reduce more faithful numbers before they make that move. Mari, Janine, and Morel are the top 3 names right now for the next banishment, so they shouldn't actively target Theo until he naturally gets more heat on him. In confessional, Gianna doesn't know if they will ever get another opportunity to take out Theo. They just blindsided him last night, so he's pissed enough to strike at them first pretty soon. If Brandon doesn't get on board with this Theo blindside, they can't go through with it. But she really needs him to commit to this tonight. Gianna then asks Brandon what is keeping him from going through with this vote, and Brandon says that if Theo is caught as a traitor, people will begin looking at the people never sussed out, including himself and Krista. Gianna doesn't think this is necessarily true, but Brandon tells her it's really not the right time to actively make this move. They need less faithful in the game to pull it off. In confessional, Brandon doesn't like how things are going for the traitor team. Gianna and Krista desperately want Theo out, but it's way too soon. There's no point in warning Theo right now because he too will flip tonight if he finds out the women are after him, so he just needs to defuse this bomb before it explodes. Inside the castle, Morel asks Mari, Theo, and Colleen if there are any particular names for tonight other than herself, and Colleen mentions Janine's name. Mari says she's actually fine voting Janine because her time should have been up ages ago. Morel says she'll do Janine because there is at least still a good chance they get a traitor out. In confessional though, Theo says that he will need Morel out tonight because she is one of the people who were actively against him last night. That could be a number for Krista and Gianna moving forward, so that has to be eliminated before they advance further into the game. In another room, Janine, Krista, and Winston talk about the banishment tonight, and Janine says she feels like Morel is the best vote tonight, and Winston agrees. Krista is very hesitant, thinking that Mari might be the best play for them tonight. Mari has acted very selfish in many cases, one of them being the time she got a shield for being the only person volunteering for a shield when she really didn't have to. Her excuse of not wanting to vote at the banishment was completely bull crap. In confessional, Krista needs to protect Morel today because that's someone who really trusts her back. Ideally, the vote is Mari or Janine, and she feels like Mari will get more votes than Janine at this point, so she has to go. Winston says that he's willing to do Mari tonight if that's what people really want. But he doesn't want to ignore his own theories because they never get tested. Whenever people follow along with a certain person's plan, it never works for them. They just need to vote without any influence for once. Krista understands but says that they still won't get anywhere if the traitors vote together at banishments. They need to throw heat onto people to see how others react. To see if anyone constantly defends anyone. Janine then slips that Mari, Russell, and Theo are always defending each other very subtly, so perhaps Krista's new theory is right. Winston shrugs and says that this is something they can keep in the back of their pocket for now. In confessional, Janine feels really good about Krista the most, so she trusts her judgment. Though, you can't fully trust anyone in this game, so she has to tread lightly. If Krista ever says anything weird, she will vote her out in a heartbeat. Nothing else notable occurs throughout the evening, with people still discussing Mari, Janine, and Morel as the vote for tonight. It's safe to say one of them will be banished tonight, but anything can happen at these roundtables to cause a last-second blindside. With it being really early into night 6, everyone is ready for the next banishment, sitting around the room and observing one another. As a reminder, all 16 people will be voting. Anyone can be voted out, including the people on death row. Everyone is now allowed to speak for the discussion, and Morel decides to go first, claiming that it's obvious her own name has been thrown out there today. In her defense, she explains how she doesn't like to show her cards to people until it's the right time. That's why people don't hear her thoughts all the time. In fact, Last night was a prime example of her being ready to throw out a name, and that was Gabby's. That was a much-needed move to change up the strategy for the faithful. Franco then chimes in, asking Morel if she's proud of voting Gabby out last night, and Morel says yes. It was needed because Gabby was never going to be banished in this game, and the traitors never murdered her. She seemed like such an easy murder, yet she never was. Franco tells Morel he's very proud of her for voting out the most faithful player in the game. If anything, that just tells him that she's the traitor, so he's already locked in for this vote. Mari rolls her eyes and decides to speak up. She firstly says she's not defending Morel in any way, but she's not going to let Franco get away with his messed up guilt tripping. She tells Franco that he has changed quite a lot after losing Gabby, which is childish behavior. She wasn't his mother. They barely knew each other. Franco tells Mari not to lecture him. He's much older and more wise than her, so she shouldn't chime in with her opinions. Mari says that there are many people here who feel uncomfortable with his actions. Of course, nobody thinks he's a traitor, but it's not fair for him to be so upset. Franco cuts her off and says that he's allowed to feel how he wants to feel. He never tells anyone how to act, so she needs to quit being a hypocrite and instead focus on who she thinks are the traitors. Minnie Marie then cuts in to ask the group for any other suspicions since they should really move on now. Fee says that Janine is definitely an option for many tonight. She has always been an option because of how she has behaved. Janine says that her personality is always like this. Actually, this game is messing with her head, so she comes off much worse than she actually is in reality. She apologizes if anyone feels a certain way about her, but she truly isn't a traitor. She'd be awful if she were one. Clara then asks Janine if she has any thoughts for this banishment tonight, and Janine says that she feels like there might be 2 or 3 traitors who are working really well together, constantly defending each other, which is preventing the faithful from getting these votes right. Of course, Gabby wasn't a traitor and she had so much protection behind her. However, there are still duos and trios that she doesn't necessarily want to name right now to cause less chaos. She'd be willing to bring this topic up again the next day or the day after if she survives. Mari then talks next, claiming that she knows her name has been brought up a lot, so she'd just like to say that she has nobody's full support in here, therefore she's just a very easy name to throw out there each banishment. She hasn't done anything traitor-like. The only reason she is considered a traitor by many is because of her behavior. Russell then cuts in, claiming that she's also very defensive when people accuse her, and Mari says that it's just a very natural reaction from her. She can be a faithful and be defensive. She doesn't want to go home. It's just a ridiculous point to say that faithful cannot be defensive. Brandon then claims that Mari is right. Faithful can be defensive, especially if they really want to stay in this game. He doesn't think Mari should be accused every day since it's preventing them from accusing new people. Mari thanks Brandon, claiming that he's really the only one who can see what she sees. With nobody else having much else to say, it's time for the vote to commence. In confessional, Gianna says that this Theo blindside will have to wait. It's just not the right time to pull it off because there's way more heat on Morel, Janine, and Mari tonight. In another confessional from Winston, he says that he's tired of people following the crowd at every vote. They need to start questioning people they never questioned before so their true colors can come out. That's really the only way they will figure out who the traitor is right now. Back in the room, everyone has written down a name on their slate, so it's time to reveal the votes one by one. Franco is asked to go first, so he reveals his vote for Morel. He heard people out and won't vote based on emotions. He thinks people made really good points against Morel, so he wants to see if these points have some merit behind them. Minnie Marie then goes next, revealing her vote for Morel as well. She just doesn't feel good about her because of the constant changes in her behavior. Sometimes, she's defensive, and sometimes, she's calm. The changes in behavior are just too snappy sometimes, hence why she's getting her vote. Mari is next, and she apologizes to Morel if she's wrong, but based on the points brought up tonight, she does seem the most traitor-like. Theo is up next, and he voted for Morel. He just feels like last night showed him that the traitors pushed for Gabby to go, and she was one of those people, so he'd like to confirm if she is a traitor or not. We're now at 4 votes for Morel. Winston is up next, and he shows his vote for Morel. He tells her that she's a very mature woman, but at the end of the day, he's here to catch traitors, and he thinks she very well could be a smart one. Clara goes next, and she too voted for Morel. Fee also shows his vote for Morel, making that 7 votes for Morel. If she gets 2 more, she is confirmed to be the one going home. Colleen is then asked to go next, and she shows she voted for Morel. It's really hard to know who is a traitor because of limited evidence, but Morel had the most heat tonight, so she voted her. Gianna goes next, and she shows that she voted Janine because she was someone brought up as a suspect on day 1, so it's only fair to vote for someone who had been accused quite a lot this season. Russell goes next, and he sighs as he shows his vote for Morel. He apologizes because he loves her a lot, but things are just not adding up with her gameplay this season. It's now official. 9 votes for Morel, and 1 vote Janine, meaning Morel has been banished from the castle. However, there are 6 more votes to get through, so Krista is up next. She shows her vote for Janine, claiming that it's obviously between her, Mari, and Morel tonight, so she just chose Janine since she comes off more traitor-like than the rest. Morel is next and she shows her vote for Janine as well, someone who is smarter than she seems. She wouldn't be surprised if she really is a traitor all this time. Brandon is asked to go next, and he shows his vote for Morel. He says that she went unscathed for a few days, which became a concern, almost like there wasn't enough attention on her because she had some backing from the traitors. Janine also shows her vote for Morel, saying it's nothing personal and all game. Liam is next, and he also voted Morel, claiming that her voting history seems too fishy to him, especially after last vote. Finally, Holly is next to reveal her vote, and she shows her vote for Morel as well. She hates writing her name down, but something has to be done to help the faithful out. With that, Morel has been banished with 13 votes, so she is asked to head to the front of the room to reveal her role to everyone. She smiles and gets up out of her seat. As she walks by Krista, Krista says she loves her, and Morel wishes her luck. Theo smiles from the other side of the room, and then Morel reaches the front. She starts off by saying she had a fun time here with the role she got to play. It taught her a lot about herself because she had to think about the game non-stop for 6 days in a row. She also learned a lot about her social skills, though they lacked a bit this season. Nevertheless, she loved spending time with everyone here, and wishes her own team luck. She reveals she was faithful. Everyone is once again disappointed, many unsure how to react anymore because it's constantly the same result over and over again. Morel walks out of the room, and Holly says that this is starting to really get on her nerves. Russell says the same and walks out of the room, not wanting to look at anyone right now. Clara looks at Winston and tells him that they really need to start accusing people they never accused before, and Winston happily agrees. In confessional, Clara says that this group of faithful need to finally make big moves, similar to the Gabby move. Even though they lost a faithful back-to-back-to-back-to-back, they need to make bolder moves than just this tonight. Morel was an easy vote for everyone. It was literally near unanimous. Starting tomorrow, nobody will be off the hook. Back in the room, Holly says she will go check on Russell, so she gets up to find him. Janine then looks at Brandon and tells him that the traitors have to be working together at these round tables. He asks her who she thinks is doing that, and she says it has to be Russell or Holly. Brandon nods and says this is a good thing to bring up tomorrow. In confessional, Janine feels like this game is going nowhere. The traitors are getting their way every time, and they never accuse each other in this game because they keep getting faithful out every time. At this rate, she's willing to look at people who are friends in the game, and Russell and Holly are first on the chopping block for her. As bedtime is coming close, Holly stands outside the bathroom door, waiting for Russell to come out, who is having a moment to himself. Krista and Mari soon join Holly, asking if everything is okay with Russell, and she says that he just needs some time alone. In confessional, Holly says she has no clue where she is going wrong in this game. She literally has no clue where to look anymore because they keep getting these votes wrong. Maybe the most innocent people are not so innocent. Maybe they need to pull off another Gabby-type vote tomorrow night. Brandon soon joins the three women, asking them if they are doing all right. Mari says that the game is getting to more people now. It's frustrating to constantly be wrong. In confessional, Brandon feels bad for the faithful because they aren't getting anywhere close to voting out a traitor. It needs to stay this way because his best chance right now is to keep his team alive so they can attack each other closer to the end game. He can't really control the drama too much though, because Krista and Gianna are on the verge of flipping on Theo. If that happens, he might have to follow so he's not left out of that vote. In the hangout room, Janine talks with Clara and Minnie Marie, telling both women that they need to start looking at close friends because there's nothing else she can think of that will be correct anymore. She thinks Holly and Russell are very close, almost too close. Clara doesn't get the vibe that it's either of them. They have been pretty consistent with their suspicions and reasonings. Minnie Marie doesn't know who to think anymore because these votes go wrong every single time. In confessional, Minnie Marie feels very lost at this point. The traitors are undetectable, so she just needs to play this game as a survivor and not a strategic player. Her strategic side clearly isn't doing her much good, so she just needs to ensure her survival moving forward. She has to be good with as many people as possible so that the traitors will also feel good with her. There's nothing else she can do right now. Back in the room, Janine still feels like pushing for Holly and Russell tomorrow, just to see how they react. Clara tells her to go right ahead because it's worth a shot. With it now being everyone's bedtime, the castle slowly quiets down as people head to their bedrooms. Clara hugs Winston as they head to bed, telling him that they'll need to make a bold move tomorrow, and Winston says of course. In confessional, Winston feels like he can trust Clara because she has a similar mind to his. Maybe she's playing him like a fiddle right now, but nobody else is willing to make a move other than her, so she's his best ally right now. With it being late into night 6, the 4 traitors arrive to the turret, ready for their next murder. They all unveil their hoodies and look at each other. Krista says that they did pretty good today as a team. Theo gives a quick nod and Brandon says that they just need to continue what they are doing since it's working for them really well. Gianna looks at Krista, who looks back at her, and then Theo asks the group about tonight's murder options. They only have 3 since 2 of them are traitors who are on death row. He names Fee, Clara, and Minnie Marie as the options. Brandon says that they can make a risky play tonight that will pay off for them, or they can take the easy route, choosing someone who isn't that much of a threat but is also less likely to have the shield tonight. Krista asks Theo and Gianna if either of them have the shield to begin with, but neither claim to have it. Brandon sighs and says that Clara might actually have it. There were 11 votes, so they can't assume there was a tie. Gianna asks if perhaps Fee would be a safe option since the vote was clearly between Clara and Theo for the shield. Theo still thinks Minnie Marie is the safer option. Absolutely no one voted her to get the shield. Sure, Fee might not have it either, but it's still a chance he somehow has it if the vote was super split. Krista says that Minnie Marie is an obvious pick right now, but sometimes, they need to take risks, and Clara would be a very good kill for them. They obviously run the risk of not getting a kill done, but maybe they can make that sacrifice. Theo doesn't like the odds of it and says that Minnie Marie is a better choice. Brandon thinks Clara is more likely to get a traitor out in the future rather than Minnie Marie. Gianna also adds that Minnie Marie trusts her, while nobody here has a close connection to Clara. Theo is still bothered by the shield factor, and he thinks she has it for sure. Nothing is stopping them from killing Clara next round. The four spend more time thinking about their decision, and they eventually agree on a name. They write it down on a scroll and send it into the hole ahead. In confessional, Krista feels really nervous about this kill because things can go really wrong if they made the wrong decision. Not only that, but Theo is an additional concern for her going forward because he definitely has his eyes on her and Gianna. If she doesn't strike at him first, he will get to her when she least expects it. Gianna tells the group that she wants the four of them to continue working together as a unit because it will work in their favor. No cracks are allowed now. Theo promises and says he never threw their names out to anyone, so he's solid. All four tell each other they are good then, and the night proceeds.